The best way to teach is by example. You know, there's lots of wrongs in the world. There's a lot of wrongs in the world. You know, there's a lot of. We need a lot more rights. Even those of us in the free nations, you know, we don't really have our full complements of rights. But on the other hand, we're also not, you know, using the rights we do have to their fullest. So, you know, I wonder, why don't we have what we could get from the tools we already possess? Why don't we have that yet? And, you know, I come to the conclusion that it's people, and it's the way people think. Now, if I'm to tell you, oh, hey, you think this way, and a lot of people will be, you know, don't tell me how to think. But they're used to dogmatism. So when somebody says, here, I'll show you how to think, maybe they're going to show you logic. You know, they're not going to tell you what to conclude or what principles to take in. They're just going to show you some good tools. You know, hey, it's not so bad. But the best way to teach, you know, is just through example and through living in a particular way. Now, I think that, you know, what we're doing is we're taking part in this great debate that used to just take part in the courts of the kings, really. I mean, there was debate among the people, but it was powerless. But it did live in the underground, and now this court debate that influences the nation has spread out wider and wider through magazines and editorial pages until finally it's reached all of us. And what can you do? Well, you can just be an example of the kind of philosophy. I mean, first of all, you have to live in a world where people have faced that there is no meaning, and then discovered meaning again. And you know, you guys are subject to a lot of my aesthetic tastes that I don't mention, that you just experience. And one of those things is negative space. You know, I like negative space, and I like to describe things in negative space. And you know, and if you do this in words, then basically it's what you left unsaid. Like Greatex recently had this video where he was pretending to be you know, a commenter, kind of hater, and you know, keyboard warrior. And you know, his last point was the guy, you know, he's playing the guy leaving a comment, and the guy's leaving a nasty comment about, why did you block me? Surely you've admitted defeat. And of course, and then that's it. That's the end of the video. And of course, he leaves unsaid that, you know, you can't leave a comment if you've been blocked. So, you know, that's like describing that with negative space. Okay, now for those of you that don't know what negative space is, this is an example of negative space. So the wavy shape in between these two blocks, that's negative space. So that's negative space in a sculpture. Here's a little logo. You see that guy's plunger? Sort of. That's negative space. See, it's in the contrast space to the object. Negative space is when you make a shape through what isn't there, rather than, you know, what is. So that's a negative space cross there, thanks to the photographer. FedEx, hopefully I won't get sued, but see the arrow in FedEx, that's negative space, see? There, those hands in there, that's negative space. So, you know, this is one reason I get criticized for being hard to understand, is because, you know, when you say something by leaving other stuff unsaid, then people get confused, and rightfully so. Furthermore, you know, when I do say directly what I think, I put the pros and cons. That also confuses people. It really confuses people when you say, well, here's my position, but here's a good point that the other side has. It's like, what? Why don't you make up your mind who you're going to kill? So the thing is, you know, as I've told you, I write fiction about my experiences sometimes and my ideas in order to sort of, I don't know, I feel it really, it makes me think through some of the ramifications that I might not think through if I'm just thinking abstractly and diagramming my ideas, you know, thinking about how would they really interact with people. And in regards to this public debate, you know, I have this idea of the philosophical battleground. I mean, basically, I'm in the same kind of boat as all these ponage guys. You know, they're on here to get a debate. I mean, it's not the only thing I'm on here for. I'm on here for a conversation. But you come online, especially at first, and you can't help but in not only a debate, but a brawl. You will end up in one. And that happened to me a lot because I didn't run from them, so you fall into them a lot. And I actually got to the point where I realized, since I'm not going to join a group, and I'm not going to become a conformist, and I'm not going to adopt any of the silly conventions that that a particular group adopts during its lifetime, it really would be inevitable that I will be, blocked and kicked off of every forum. It's only a matter of time. So in realizing that, I never really was one who picked fights. I would enjoy them, but I would not pick them. And, I came to realize that, first of all, that is a way of looking for a fight, But on the other hand, you're still sort of justified because it's the other people that were, ridiculous or overly emotional, assuming that you don't actually pick the fight. Well, the thing is, I got very good at this, at not picking fights and leaving it to others, and I'm pretty careful, and yet I don't pretend to be perfect or above the drama. See, I'm admitting I'm in this Ponage League. It's just that here's my stance. It's like a sumo wrestler, I have a very low center of gravity. Anybody could see that you probably should not just run at me directly. You'll have to take your time and strategize about your approach. And while you're doing that, you're thinking. And unlike actual physical battle, this is to my advantage. Because the more you think, the less you're going to fight me. Because again, I'm not here to fight. I mean, that's the lowest ponage level. Because when you fight and the hollers of the crowd matter. And the next level, you fight and you realize the hollers of the crowd don't matter. The insults that you think pack a punch, they pack a punch. Insult that guy thinks, for him and the people that think like him, they judge the contest differently, and you won't care. And as a fight above that, you realize that the only certain kinds of ideas are really valid and victorious, only if they really are rational and pertinent, and you learn the laws of logic, and you have no pride in a successful fallacy. But then beyond that, this league turns into something quite else, where you only win if both people in the battle benefit. If both people in the battle benefit, if they both leave better off, either they have been disabused of a false idea, or more likely they have been made aware of a weakness in their ideas, they have been made aware of a new argument in favor of their ideas, they feel that there was good intellectual exercise there, so they're stronger in that respect, even if they can't figure out whether they won or lost an argument. Both people have to leave that, feeling that way, for you to win. And again, I already said 3 leagues ago, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. It doesn't matter what a bunch of commenters or other debatists think. You will know if you have won. Because for one thing, you can maybe only guess if it's to another person's benefit, but you can know if it's to your own benefit. You can know if you learned something. What if you learned something, but everybody that watched you in this public exchange thinks you're a loser and you were proven wrong, but you've learned something? It doesn't matter what all those people think, luckily, so there's really no question of did you gain. Now, if your feelings are hurt anyway, and you're like, well, these people think, what can I say, you need to learn how not to care about that. The internet will teach you that too, because if you get your feelings up or down based on what a bunch of strangers say to you on the internet, then you will find your feelings abused to the point that eventually you'll realize, oh yeah, I better not do that, at least not on the internet.